So what happens when you take the mind of a master strategist like Robert Greene, the guy behind the 48 Laws of Power, and you mix it with the, let's call it street-forged wisdom of Curtis 50 Cent Jackson? Well, you get something pretty incredible. You get the 50th Law, which is basically a modern-day philosophy of absolute fearlessness. Let's break down how it all works.
The book kicks things off by asking this really fundamental question, one that gets right to the heart of who we are as human beings. Just think about it for a second. What's the one feeling, the one emotion that has shaped human history more than pretty much any other?
Yep, the answer is fear. It's ancient, it's simple, and it's wired deep, deep into our nervous system. Now, originally, it was a good thing. It was a survival tool. It helped our ancestors spot a predator in the bushes, retreat, and, live to see another day. Fear literally built civilizations because it forced us to plan ahead for threats. But today? Today it's taken on a whole different meaning. And this, right here, is the core problem the book is trying to solve. This idea of the prison of modern fear. I mean, think about it. We're physically safer than we've ever been in all of history, but so many of us walk around with this vague, chronic anxiety that just holds us back.
The book says there are basically two ways of dealing with this feeling. The first is the passive mode, and that's our default setting today, right? We avoid tough situations, we seek comfort, we scroll on our phones. But then there's the active mode. And you felt this. It's that surprising inner strength that just shows up when you're in a real crisis, when you're forced to confront a real threat. The problem is, our super comfortable world with all its distractions and safety nets, it keeps us stuck in that passive mode. And ironically, that just makes us even more sensitive to fear.
So this passive, avoidant approach, that's what the book calls the fearful attitude. But here's the thing. It's not the only way. There's another option. An alternative exists. We can actually make a conscious choice to shift into that active mode and start to build a philosophy of total, absolute fearlessness. And that brings us to the 50th Law itself. It's built on a really simple but powerful idea. We have very, very little control over what happens to us in life, but we do have total control over how we respond. So, by cultivating a fearless approach, we can literally transform any setback, any piece of adversity, into a source of power. So how do we actually do that? Well, the book lays out three main pillars for this philosophy.
The first pillar, this one might be the toughest. It's called intense realism. And it's all about stripping away your fantasies, your wishful thinking, and just looking at the world and yourself with total, unflinching clarity. This quote really nails it. Realism isn't about being negative or pessimistic. It's actually a form of empowerment. Look, reality is harsh. People can be treacherous. A realist doesn't run from this stuff. They accept it. They even embrace it. Because that acceptance, that's the foundation of real strength. And being a realist isn't about how many books you've read. It's a matter of character. It means you're not afraid to look at the ugly truths. You start to see people's real motives, not just the mask they show you. You get better at anticipating dangers down the road. You just become more connected to what's actually happening instead of what you wish was happening.
Abraham Lincoln is the book's prime example of this. His true genius wasn't some grand, lofty ideal. It was pure, hardcore pragmatism. He judged people by what they did, not by what they said. This fearless focus on reality, that was his ultimate superpower. It's what allowed him to steer the country through its absolute darkest hour.
Okay, this brings us to the second pillar. And this is where the philosophy gets really, really transformative. It's all about taking that harsh reality you now see and actually turning it to your advantage. And honestly, there's no better example of this than 50 Cent's own story. In May of 2000, he was shot 9 times, point-blank range. I mean, his career was over. Done. But during his recovery, he had this incredible realization. The shooting wasn't the end. It was a beginning. He completely recreated himself. He turned his altered voice, that signature slur from the bullet in his jaw, into an asset. He transformed the whole event into a kind of mystique, a brand, and boom, became one of the most dominant forces in music.
This is what the book calls mental alchemy. It's the ability to take the absolute worst moments of your life, the failures, the betrayals, the big crises, and use them as raw material. As the book so elegantly puts it, it's about transforming shit into sugar. Because it's in those dark moments, when you are truly, truly tested, that your real power and your real creativity are actually born. Okay, the final pillar.
This one ties it all together. Once you can see reality clearly and you know how to turn negatives into positives, the last step is to cultivate a supreme sense of self-reliance. This quote from the philosopher Max Stirner just captures the whole idea perfectly. Your real power, your real might, it comes from inside you. It's this deep, fundamental knowledge of yourself and what you're capable of, completely independent of anyone or anything else. And let's be clear, this is not about owning a house or having a fancy job title. You can have all that stuff and still be completely dependent on others. True ownership, it's a mindset. It's an internal confidence in your own abilities, and it's a rejection of anything that makes you reliant on other people or outside forces.
And the book makes this super practical with a simple 2-step blueprint. First, we claim dead time. It's like a young Cornelius Vanderbilt who decided that any job, no matter how boring, was his own personal apprenticeship. Absorb everything you can. And second, create little empires. When you're faced with a choice, always opt for more responsibility over more money. A lower-paying job that gives you more control and more room to make decisions, that's infinitely more valuable for building true ownership.
So you have these 3 pillars: seeing reality, transforming negatives, and owning yourself. And they're all designed, really, to help us confront the one single fear that lies underneath every other fear we have.
It's the final question, isn't it? The one that quietly drives so much of what we do. What is that one ultimate fear that we spend almost our entire lives trying to run away from?
It's our own mortality. The book argues that by constantly pushing away the thought of our own death, we're basically living a lie. And this constant low-grade denial, that's the source of so many of our modern anxieties and our endless, desperate need for distraction.
But here's the final beautiful twist. Confronting your own mortality isn't dark or morbid. It's actually liberating. When you truly accept that your days are numbered, all the petty anxieties just fall away. Everything changes. You get this incredible sense of urgency and purpose. What matters now is living the time you have as well and as fully as you possibly can. And that awareness, that is the ultimate freedom. That is the core of the 50th law.